Shadows of Salem, the haunting legacy of the witch trials. The witch trials in Salem, Massachusetts are among the darkest chapters of American history. For over 3 centuries, the terrifying tales of innocent people accused of witchcraft have haunted the collective imagination. But behind the veil of history lies a deeper, darker mystery, one that still echoes through the forests, the abandoned streets, and the forgotten burial grounds of Salem. And those who dare to uncover it, well, they might never return. This is the story of a mystery too dark to ignore, a warning of what's hidden beneath the surface and what has never truly been laid to rest. The rain lashed against the old wooden house on the outskirts of Salem, where dark clouds obscured the full moon. A figure stood at the window, gazing out into the night. Martha Woodbury, whose life had been irrevocably changed years ago. Her eyes were wide, her pupils flickering like a candle struggling against a gust of wind. She had seen things that had no place in the world of the living. "Martha!" A whisper hissed from the shadows, so faint she wasn't sure if she heard it. Martha Woodbury. Her heart raced and she turned quickly, only to find the room empty. The house was silent, too silent. The walls seemed to press in on her as if they were closing in on something buried deep inside. Salem, Massachusetts, had once been a town of paranoia, where dark secrets twisted like vines around every corner. People had been dragged from their homes, accused of consorting with demons, of casting spells and making pacts with the devil. Yet, in Martha's case, it hadn't been accusations from others that had driven her to the brink of madness. No, it was something more, something she had seen with her own eyes. The night before the trials began, Martha had stood in the town square, watching as the flames burned through the bodies of those accused of witchcraft. Their screams had echoed through the air, echoes that never quite faded, at least not in her mind, not ever. "I know what you did," a voice had whispered that night, soft yet unmistakable. Now, years later, Martha could still hear the voices, each one different, each one familiar. They were calling from the depths of the past, from the cursed earth of Salem itself. Her hands trembled as she clutched the edge of the table. She had to know. She had to uncover the truth of what had happened to her ancestors, what they had done to anger the spirits. But the more she delved into the history of Salem, the more she understood that she was not dealing with simple ghosts. No, these were shadows. Vengeful, ancient forces tied to the land itself. Martha's research led her to a long-forgotten journal, one written by her great-great-grandmother, a woman who had lived through the darkest years of the trials. The journal spoke of whispers in the night, strange lights in the sky, and the chilling belief that the witch trials were not only about fear and superstition, but about something deeper, a power that had been awakened in the town, something that had never been extinguished. It was that discovery that set Martha on a path she could never have imagined. One night, Martha ventured deep into the forest that had once been the site of executions, where bodies of the accused were burned and buried without a proper grave. The ground had soaked up their suffering, their rage, their spirits. As she walked, she could feel it. A presence following her, breathing down her neck. She heard rustling behind her, a voice calling her name in the wind. "Martha! Martha!" "Stop!" Martha shouted, turning quickly. But there was nothing there, only shadows stretching long and thin under the light of the moon. And then, just as she thought the haunting would consume her completely, she saw it. A stone circle in the clearing, ancient and cracked. The ground beneath it seemed to throb, alive with energy. The whispering began again, louder this time. "You can never escape us." The air turned cold, icy, and Martha could feel something tugging at her, something older than time itself, something that had been bound beneath the earth since the trials had begun. Stone circle, a woman dressed in dark, tattered robes, her hair matted with dirt, her eyes hollow and black. She was one of the witches, Martha realized, but not just any witch. This was one of the first, the one whose soul had never been allowed to rest. "You are bound to us now," the witch spoke, her voice a terrible echo of centuries of agony. "We are Salem." The witch's presence lingered in Martha's mind like a poison. Days passed in a blur of sleepless nights and frenzied research. She pored over old texts, desperate to understand the curse she had stumbled upon. But the more she dug, the more unsettling the truth became. Salem wasn't just haunted by the ghosts of those executed. No, something far darker had been sealed away, hidden by those who believed they could control it. What the people of Salem had thought were simple witch trials were in fact a desperate attempt to contain a force that could consume the world. But what if that force was still alive? What if it had been passed down, generation after generation, awaiting the right moment to break free? Was Martha somehow connected to it? She didn't know, but she was starting to suspect that the very thing she feared, Salem's dark power, was beginning to stir once again. Martha's research led her to a troubling discovery, an ancient manuscript, one that had been locked away in the archives of the town's historical society. It had never been seen by public eyes. The manuscript contained accounts of strange rituals conducted during the trials, rituals meant not to punish, but to bind. The witches were not simply condemned. They were imprisoned in an eternal cycle, their souls trapped in the town's very soil. And now they were waking. "It's too late, you've disturbed us." The voice came again, this time in her dreams, deep and rasping, like the wind howling through an abandoned church. It was no longer a whisper, it was a warning. The more Martha delved into the cursed past of Salem, the more she try and uncover its secrets. A man named Ethan Chandler had come before her, a historian who had once lived in the same house she now inhabited. His notes were scattered throughout the library, detailing his own obsession with the trials. Ethan had sought the truth about the witches, just as she did, but his search had ended in madness. Martha found one last letter, tucked away in the back of a journal, where Ethan wrote, "I have uncovered the truth, and now I am paying the price. I see them, I hear them. I cannot sleep, I cannot escape. The shadows are everywhere. Please do not follow me into this." She felt a chill as she read the last line. Ethan had never been found. No one knew what had happened to him. Martha, now fully aware of the dangers, thought about turning back, but it was too late. The shadows had already found her, just as they had found Ethan. The curse had claimed another. The night of the full moon arrived, an omen that had appeared in many of the journals and texts. It was then that the witch would rise again, and this time the curse would be complete. Martha stood at the edge of the forest, the wind howling around her, carrying with it the voices of the long-dead witches. The stone circle was no longer just a relic. It was alive. The ground trembled beneath her feet, and she could hear the whispers growing louder, angrier, more desperate. "Martha," a voice hissed, "you are ours." Before she could move, the air around her seemed to thicken. The shadows were closing in, reaching for her, pulling her into the darkness. "No!" Martha cried, fighting to escape, but it was useless. The witch's curse had been fulfilled. She had disturbed the balance of Salem, and now the shadows would never leave her. Months later, when the sun rose over the village of Salem, a new mystery was added to the town's growing list of paranormal occurrences. A woman, once vibrant, full of life, was found in the woods. Her body was cold, her eyes wide open, staring into the unknown. On her lips, she whispered just one word: Salem. And the story of Martha Woodbury became another shadow in the dark history of Salem. The story of a woman who sought to uncover the truth, but in doing so, awakened something that had always been waiting, lurking, restless, and eternal. The people of Salem continue to speak in hushed tones of Martha Woodbury's tragic fate. They say that the witch trials were only the beginning of the town's dark history, and that the shadows, those ancient, vengeful forces, still haunt the land, waiting for the next unwitting soul to awaken them. Be careful what you search for. The truth can cost more than you're willing to pay. Join the conversation. Your support drives us. We hope you enjoyed this video, but here's a question. Why haven't you subscribed to our channel yet? Your one like and subscribe give us the motivation to create even more engaging videos. And don't forget to share your thoughts. Head to the comment section below and tell us, which part of the story gave you chills or made your heart race the most? Your feedback means the world to us. Thank you for your incredible support.